Hi, so my name is Mukahang Limbu. Namaste to everybody. I know that Poetry Day, World Poetry Day has been a while back, and I'm so sorry for doing this extremely late. But I hope I can share a few things about myself. Um, I am a student at Oxford, currently Oxford University, studying English and German. I'm an undergraduate second year, and I guess I write, I sing a little, and I just am a huge sort of fan of performing arts and creative arts. I started writing poetry, I think secondary school, so when I was 12, 13, and it took me a while to really sort of get into writing or like finding things that really inspired me. I knew that moving to the UK um was a huge source of inspiration, especially since my first poem that received an award. I know that awards don't necessarily mean everything, but when I was 13, I wrote this poem called When I Came from Nepal, and sort of that I think just shows that I was always very inspired by my move. This notion of like being displaced, and kind of having two separate cultures that you kind of have to navigate within, and just trying to reconcile that within the poetry. Um, so the first time I think ever wrote a poem or remember writing a poem was actually primary school. And I'd gone through this very weird obsession with the classics, so like ancient Greeks. I think I was obsessed with this show. Um, and I wrote an acrostic poem with the word Aphrodite, who's the Greek goddess of love. And it I think actually got published because it was for a school project, but I think that was the first time I ever like really remember writing a poem. um and I think I only wrote because of my school, and just going into sort of secondary school, when I got older and started writing poems more regularly. It was to do with because I had this writing teacher at school, and we'd get together at lunchtimes or after schools, and it always became this space actually where I could just be and write like things down. And as pretentious as it sounds, it was just a quiet space within sort of the like jungle of school. It was something outside exams and outside classrooms and studying, and I really sort of enjoyed it. When all of this is over and the bedrooms go out of business, I mean to pay better attention to daffodils, to let them remind me of your rifle rounds of laughter, and to roll down hills the way our head girl taught me, carry the bumps in my ribs, let my clothes be soaked in grass. When growing up takes a day off, I think I'll go shopping for chilies and coriander, talk to the lady who asks me where I'm from each time I speak to her in Hindi, and maybe take my time to watch her cereal before she hands me the change. When all of this is over, I shall resume writing this poem in a light like the school libraries after school, the perfect wooden light, and exchange words without the static of a screen, with the familiar voice that hovers over the pen. And I will try to put something down about forgetting the things I learned at uni, how giving a blowjob is a power move, that we are a distracted generation, or the different versions of homeless I've come to know. When all of this is over, I want to forget it. I want to stay young for at least a single day. Just to like talk about the poem I just recited, I think it actually holds so a lot of people who I've come to hell like as like my closest friends, and they've all come through poetry. So the head girl who taught me to roll down the hills, she's a poet herself. Or the friend with the rifle laughter, she is one of my closest friends, and she's a poet herself. And so I think I wrote this during first ever lockdown in the UK. And I think we were all just missing a little bit of contact. I think I felt extremely isolated, slightly lonely, and just missing times when things were just easier. And I think that's where the sort of the poem comes from. I think it came from that hope of wanting things to just be better. And Just this kind of frustration at things moving forward, but yet not feeling like you've moved forward. This standstill, I think, everybody kind of experienced. And just looking forward, I think that's sort of where the poem like actually comes from. I think poetry is such a huge part of our community, especially our Nepalese community, because poetry is in everything we say. It may not be sort of written down, it may not be published, and it doesn't have to be. I think the things that we say to each other, the images that we make when we're speaking to one another, when my mom says something, it's just, I think, poetry, and that is something we as sort of a group of people, a community should feel proud of, and should really cherish and encourage, because I think words have such power to change, to express. And I think the more poetry there is, or the more poetry that people write, the happier I think we will all be.